Good evening, I'm Anne Woodcock and welcome to FishPal's Live. It's Wednesday evening and everybody's going to get together and have a little chat. So on this evening's Facebook Live, we are going to be chatting about fishing the River Tees, the River Wear and the Tyne in the northeast of England. Then we're off to Scotland, to the Deveron and also to the Orkneys. And we've got international destinations, including South Africa, Seychelles, New Zealand, Russia. Oh, to name but a few. So who are my guests? I am going to be joined by Matthew Will, John Trodden, the chairman of the River Spey Anglers Association, Marcus Janssen, the brand director at Schoffel Country, and Chameau, and also a field editor at the Complete Fly Fisherman magazine in South Africa. Don't forget, tell me where you are, which country you're coming, which country you're watching this from, and also as well is do ask questions to our guests. And if you can't hear anything, do let us know, because I do like all the updates from everybody as well. So let's get our first guest in. My first guest is John Trodden from the River Spey Anglers Association. He is the chairman. Good evening, John. How are you this evening?
I'm fine, Anne. Hello to you too. Hello, everybody else out there.
Well, we're going to be popping comments in this feed as well. And we've already got a comment and we've got Yvonne. She's watching from Peterhead. So good evening, Yvonne. I'm just going to put that, the River Spey Anglers Association, so everybody knows where you're from. Now, at the weekend, there was a junior event, wasn't there? Well, it was a family day. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, due to the COVID situation, this has been really the first angling session that we've been able to run this year. So we decided to go for a family day, and we did it under SANA guidelines. So we did our risk assessment, we did the safety briefing and social distancing and all those things, followed the regulations. And so we advertised for a family day. So this was really essentially for young people and adults. And in the event, when we put this out on our own Facebook page, all the places were booked within 2 hours, which is really incredible. And it shows, you know, the interest in the uptake of angling. And it's important to remember that it's not just, you know, young people that, you know, we need to get into fishing. There are also adults who maybe had a wee go when they were younger and are interested, perhaps because their children are interested. So we did that, and in the event we had 4 dads and son pairs, as well as a whole number of young people ranging from 9 years upwards, 9 years up to about 16.
And
so,
I love this. There's a photo here of one of your junior members. He was one of your junior members that's now come back, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yes, there's a superb young man, Scott Mellis, who was one of our youth members. There's Scott there, and he's actually coaching Chris Kirk, I think it is, one of the dads. And Chris, actually, after the event, sent me an email saying how much he'd enjoyed the day, but also was very grateful for all the really good tips that Scott was able to give him. So, you know, Scott's an angler in his own right now, fishes Aberlour, catches the odd salmon, and occasionally catches the first fish of the season. So certainly on Aberlour. So he does very well.
And you've also got our juniors that come on as well. We've got Gordo and Cheyenne. I know they were there.
Yeah. Well, that is excellent as well, because although they're still quite young, they've had a lot of experience. The Stronachs, as you know, are a really keen fishing family. They're out a lot, and it's nice to see Cheyenne and Gordon developing their skills as young coaches. And they're actually, you know, good fun, and they connect very well with youngsters too. So that's another string to their bow in a sense, and you know, they're shaping up very well as young anglers. Superb.
And the thing I love as well is that when we were chatting about this, everybody caught fish, which is just great news, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. I mean, certainly maybe young people sometimes have to learn that you don't catch a fish every time you go out, unless your name's Paul Proctor or something like that. Occasionally it can be quite tough. Even Alan Liddell fails to catch fish occasionally. But yes, I think when they're starting off and they're mad keen, it's important that they get the feel of a tug on the other end of the line. And in fact, one of our youngsters didn't manage to land the fish, but he had a fish on that must have been about 12 pounds at one point. Nearly wrenched the rod out of his hands. Lost the fish, but we did manage to get everybody a fish. And I think the heaviest was round about 3 pounds, which is smashing sport, really good fun. Miller Kellis is a very welcoming venue, very safe. It's very well manicured. And you always get a warm welcome there, a good fishing hut and so on. Not that we used that because all of our guests were outside, but it is a fantastic venue and a good place to start off your fishing career.
Definitely. And I've been on events with yourselves when you've been using the Miller Kellis, and they also, because more importantly as well as catching a fish, they also tried fish as well. So I've got a wonderful photo.
Yes. This is Kenny Allen. Kenny's a retired committee member from the RSAA and has great culinary skills as well as fixing roofs. He has a wee business fixing roofs and things, but he is a really good cook. And a number of years ago, we ran a ladies' festival. He did all the lunches, prepared all the food for that. And what was good about this was it's an opportunity not only to catch fish, but to get young people to taste it. And as a past head teacher, I know how difficult it is at lunchtimes to get kids to taste different kinds of foods. So I don't know that they were that keen on fresh trout, but smoked trout went down very, very well. And Kenny, not only for the children, but for the adults, he demonstrated how to set up his smoker and how to clean the fish, to trim them and so on. And he made a really good job of that. And it was a great hit. So that was superb. That was a great part of the day.
Well, I've enjoyed Kenny's food on the ladies' events, and absolutely star Kenny is. Such a great person. Now, I know Hallie Hutchins has said hello, and he also mentioned Alan Liddell. By the way, we have Alan Liddell on next week.
Right.
You actually was off fishing, weren't you? You went off to the Orkneys. Tell us a little bit about how you got on at the Orkneys.
All right. Well, Orkney's a fantastic place, and I would say this is Graham Mackenzie in that photograph. He was my boat partner and long-time fishing friend. But anyone who hasn't had a chance to fish for trout in Orkney really needs to do that. You should put that definitely onto your bucket list. Obviously, it's nearer for us than for people travelling up from England. But if you go to Gills Bay, it's just a short hour crossing to St Margaret's Hope. And on the mainland of Orkney, there's some terrific fishing. Main lochs, Harry Loch is the jewel in the crown there. It's the one that everybody likes to fish. And it's quite a shallow loch. You've got to be very careful if you're on a boat because there are lots of skerries in it. These are rocky outcrops, and you can come on them without warning if you don't know what you're doing. But the fish tend to lie in the drop-offs from these skerries just into the deeper water. And it fishes very, very well, both from boat and from the bank. And the beauty of Harry Loch is that no matter which way the wind's blowing, you can always find a relatively quiet, sheltered part of the loch. So we were able to fish even when it was 30-mile-an-hour winds. You didn't really need to cast. You just held your line out and it blew. The photograph of Graham Mackenzie is fishing Boardhouse Loch. We stayed at the Barony Hotel, which is very, very welcoming. Good place to stay, right on the banks of Boardhouse. And it fished very well from the boat. I thought I did well. That was one of mine. I had a couple of fish over the 2 pound mark. And I think probably for the week I ended up with 23. One of our other fishing friends, Tony Smith, was fishing from a boat the week. Really serious competitive angler. And he managed to get 122 fish for his week. They all went back in. I mean, he didn't kill any of his fish. But he was fishing lost style from a boat with a guy called Bill Lassiter, who are also, by the way, really keen spey anglers. But I mean, Orkney, terrific place to go if you have your lady. There's places to go and shop. There's lots of archaeological things to see too in Orkney, Scarabray, Macehow, Tomb of the Eagles. Lots of things to do. It's a fantastic place to visit, and I have to say the fishing is second to none. And I was delighted to see. I think even one day Alan Liddell even struggled to get a fish. He fished from the bank kind of mostly, although I do believe he was out in his float tube when it was really quite windy. I think certainly in the 20s. So he's a dangerous guy, Alan.
Oh, he lives life to the full. We'll have to ask him next week.
Yeah.
I have a fly here that you were tying, and Melvin McDonald said, "Is that a roughy scruffy?"
Right. Oh, this was I bought some peach synthetic fur, seal's fur, prior to going to Orkney, and I'd heard that peach muddlers did very well. So that was my kind of impression of a peach muddler. And I did catch several trout on that fly. So it just shows you even the scruff. Well, probably the scruffy ones work better than the neatly tied ones. But there you go.
Well, thank you so much for coming on this evening and telling us about the Orkneys, but also as well is the River Spey Anglers Association, because the work that you do and everybody that's involved at the River Spey Anglers Association, you do such amazing work to actually get young people into fishing, and people and older people as well, and ladies events and everything. So I've got Danny coming on next month as well, one of your ladies. So but thank you so much for coming on, and we'll speak to you soon, John. Okay.
All the very best, Anne.
Thank you. Take care. Bye. Well, there you go. That's John Trodden from the River Spey Anglers Association. And my next guest is Matthew Will. He is, I could personally say, he's totally full-on angler. Hello, Matthew. How are you doing?
Evening, Anne.
Well, I'm doing well. Well, I know last week you were on because we had you up at Loch Inch with the wonderful Stronach family, because you took them fishing on the Deveron, didn't you?
Yeah, I was guiding for them last Wednesday on the Lathers beating the Deveron, and then yesterday we were out on their home turf on the River Ness. So it's been another great wee bunch of guys, and Cheyenne and Gordo are just mad keen, so we need to get them a fish. We've been out twice and there's no fish to show yet, so we need to work on that.
Well, talking of fish, you've actually had quite a good season so far. You started I know you've been a huge fan of the lives, etc. during lockdown. You were able to get out in July, and you actually wanted to do 4 species, didn't you, on 4 rivers? Tell us a little bit about it, and I've got some photos.
Yeah, what happened was good friends with James Stocco, Guy Lee Final, who fishes the Till, and obviously during lockdown, Lucinda, you ended up a post asking for someone to help her with double haul casting.
Mm-hmm.
So I messaged her and gave her some tips and that, and she offered me to come down and fish for grayling. So I thought it'd be as well putting them all together. So I planned a weekend, left on Friday morning, went down and met Lee Final first. We fished the Till, it's it there, and the Felon Fly Fishers Club. He got on as a visitor. Beautiful bit of water, completely different to what I'm used to, and using tiny wee small flies, fishing them fast. And he managed to get my first sea trout in English waters off a Till. There it is. We fished about 4 pound, well deserved fish, because and actually that time home I took 13 fish and lost every one. So I was beginning to get ready to pack the rods up, and went down with Lee, and he got me that fish the first night. So that was brilliant.
So you literally had a few hours sleep and you were off down to Durham.
Yeah, couple of hours kept on the sofa, thanks to Lee, and then straight down to meet Lucinda and Gary. Went down to Durham, fished the, went down in the morning, we fished the tees for browns and grayling.
Oh, are you still there? I think we're losing his connection. I don't know if everybody can see you. Are you there? Oh, there we go. We've got, are you okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove you and then bring you back in. Okay. So let's pop you in. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody who's watching this, can you just tell us if you can see Matthew okay for me, please? All right.
I must have broke everybody's screens.
Pardon?
I must have broke everybody's screens.
Oh, no. Well, it was interesting because David Murray came on and he said, hi, guys, and then you froze.
Oh. No,
so your microphone, you've gone really quiet on me. We've just been talking about you, Lee Final, as well. Okay. So Lee Final's just said hello. So you went down and you fished with Lucinda and Gary on the tees. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, they went to the tees to target browns and grayling, and we got successful in the end, but I must have missed about 20 fish first before I landed anything, and Lucinda and Gary were about wetting themselves. The first brown I hooked, when I struck it, because I was only using the short line, I struck it that hard, it came up and I actually caught it in my hands when I struck it. And then managed to get my brown trout, so that was species number 2. Okay. And then we went up to the top of the beat where I got that grayling that you just showed the picture of just now. It's my first ever proper grayling. I had small ones before on the test in the itching carriers that I fished down in Southampton, but only little wee. So that was my first proper grayling I'd ever caught. Luckily, we had the net there because just after it went in the net, the hook came out. So that was species number 3 in the bag, leaving the end of it up to James Stocco on the Tyne. So we fished, there we go, fished the Sunday and the Monday with James on the Tyne. We fished the north, south, and the main river. Managed to get that. Most of the fish came from the north Tyne, at Bardon Mill. But it was brilliant. So I managed my 3 species on my 4 days, and then
so can I just say, you actually went to England to get your species. So you were going for 4 species in 4 days, weren't you? So you'd managed to get 3 in 3 days. You were with James Stocco. You end up night fishing with James Stocco as well, don't you, for sea trout?
Yeah, but the night before, after getting them fish with Lucinda and Gary during the day, they took me down to the Bedburn beat, also another FishPal beat. Yeah. Shout out. We went there and didn't get a sea trout that night. Gary lost a fish, unfortunately, but we had to leave early and come back. So once again, a couple hours kept, and then straight back down to meet James at Hexham. So I fished with James on the Sunday. Managed to get, we got 1 sea trout landed on the Sunday, and then went back on the Monday, which was day 4, and we hooked quite a few fish. We landed 2, but no salmon, unfortunately. So species number 4 in 4 days wasn't to be had.
Wow. Oh my goodness. But on your way back home, you fished, you go past the Esk, you thought, well, I'll give that a cast, didn't you?
Yeah, but before that, on the take you back to England before I crossed the border, I on the Tuesday I was planning to come home, bit disheartened not getting my salmon, and Lucinda phoned and said, "Do you fancy fishing the Weir again tonight?" I was like, "Well, yeah, but I'll need something to do today." So I went on to FishPal and I booked on the Lamley beat, and luckily I managed to get my salmon. I managed to get a nice salmon, about £9. So that was that. I managed to get my salmon in extra time. So that was the 4 species.
5 days.
5 days, not 4, unfortunately.
Yes. And the other thing as well is with Lambley is if it's got, because obviously it's a South Tyne, and when there's water in the South Tyne, oh, nice bit of water to fish.
It was absolutely stunning. Most of it on that Lambley beat, you could have, if you told someone you were fishing the Findhorn with the pictures, it was it. It was absolutely stunning. The viaduct pool up at the top was just, you could stand there, you didn't need to get a fish, you could stand and fish out all day. It was stunning.
Yeah. And tell us about your trip home, because I thought you didn't sleep. You don't sleep, do you?
A few people don't think when the summer's in, I don't sleep much. I'm a bit nocturnal. So on the way home, stopped at the petrol station just before getting to the south-esque. Saw a photograph come up with one of my friends, James Miller, at the perk beat with a £10 bar of silver. So decided, haven't seen him in a while, gave him a message, and he said, "Oh, come down, we're fishing perk, get a blether with you." So I went down, and two of his friends were just packing up, and they said, "You can fish our rods if you want." So I was like, "Well, since I'm here, got the stuff in the car," got packed, set up again, and started fishing. Hooked a couple of fish, but lost them. So starting to feel a bit tired after 5 days, 6 days in the river. I says, "Right, I'm going to head home and I'll make tracks." So I got home and says, "Oh, I'll just go have a look at the height of my river, the River Yugi, which is my home river." And it was bang on. I got a few texts off a guy saying there was fish in. So grabbed something to eat and went, that's a fish from the Weir. That's 5
that's the
pounder.
Weir. Okay.
Yeah, from Bedburn.
Sorry.
Is that right? So on the way home, seen the Yugi. Yugi was looking bang on. So quick bite to eat and then back out again. And managed to land 4 sea trout at night in the Yugi, which is one of my best bags on the Yugi at night.
So you're back home for a couple of weeks, and then you're off to the Deveron as well, aren't you? So you go and fish the Deveron lathers with David Murray. Yeah, you had quite a good time, didn't you? And apologies, I'm going to try and get the photos right. Poor Marcus, he's on after you. God help him. With me and my face.
He's got a few ones that's better than mine, but
he really has.
Yeah,
he hasn't. You're good photos.
I had a week in the Rock when I came home on the Deveron, fishing with Jerry Lodge and Dave Dixon, who have now become great friends of mine after fishing with them for 2 years on the Rock beat. They've got a week for salmon and 2 sea trout weeks as well. So a great couple of guys for Yorkshire. So started fishing with them, had a week with them, and on the Saturday I invited Dave Murray up to fish. So I fished with Dave. I had a sea trout that night. He didn't have any joy, but he invited me to fish lathers on the Monday. So we're supposed to get heavy rain on the Sunday and Sunday night. So it was supposed to be perfect. Turned up on the Monday, no signs of rain. So a bit disheartened, but still another beat to fish. Never fished it before. So went there and first run down the bottom pool at Powendath, hooked the fish. So got a grills, got it in, cut the pictures, it's there, and went straight back in. Bang, another fish. Wee salmon about £6. And but the main part of that story is David left because he said it wasn't good conditions. And another point, it was in David's fly that he left on one of my rods for the Saturday night. So he's going to love me for mentioning that. So 2 fish down and we'll swap over at lunchtime to the top half of the beat. So Jamie the Gilly showed me one of the pools called Turning Wheels, which is just as you come down on the top beat. So fished that, first run down, bang, got a grilse about £4. Kept going down to the bottom pool where he says the coffin stone is. Fished that down at a bit called the Narrows and turned about 5 or 6 further fish. So Jamie appears after lunch, told him I'd got another one, which he's delighted at. 3 fish in a day is something else already.
So did you have 4 fish by lunchtime?
I had 3 by lunchtime.
3 by lunchtime.
I had 2 out of Pow and Daft, and 1 from Turning Wheels.
Okay.
And then he took me down to the bottom at the Narrows, and we stood and watched fish after fish come at my sunray. Every other cast, there was a fish coming at it. Eventually, we got another one to lock up, which was number 4, which was the photograph you just showed.
Yeah.
Then David reappears at the end of the day. And obviously, I told Jamie he had to go and tell him that I had 4 fish, because I didn't have the heart to tell him because he had left. And especially with being on his fly.
Okay. And was this the day that Richard Miller appeared? And he said you're mental because you're fishing in horrendous conditions as the rain was now bouncing off the river.
Yeah.
And the wind was picking up.
Just after when we were playing that 4th fish, the rain we had been forecast on the Sunday, we were praying for, never came. Eventually started coming midday while we were fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was safe to say it was torrential. A nice day to be a duck. But we went up. Now David's here, set up. He's obviously a bit disheartened because I had 4 fish while he had went away thinking it was bad conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Went up to fish top herring. 5 minutes in top herring, bang, into another fish about 14 pound. Landed again. This is when Richie Miller turned up and started taking photographs and videos because he said we were off our head. While he was there photographing and videoing this, a few other fish started showing in the pools, and the river started to rise slowly, which is never a good sign usually. As soon as you get a rising river, it's usually just time to go home.
Mm-hmm.
But since we're at the top of the beat, I says, well, I'm going to fish my way back to the car. And luckily I did, because I went down at the middle herring and got another fish on the way back down to David. So he wasn't best pleased at the end of the day, to say the least.
And that is your best day, 6 salmon on the Deveron. That's your best day, isn't it? On the Deveron.
That's the best day I've had in the Deveron, yeah. 6 salmon, all in a single hander. So it was
well done. And that was on Lathers Beat, wasn't it?
That was on Lathers.
On Lathers, which is on FishPal as well. So absolutely brilliant. And I know that you've still since been on, because that's another one off Lathers, isn't it?
Yeah, I've fished it a few times. I came home like 2 weeks ago on Wednesday. So the first day home, straight up the river, and landed a sea trout on the first run down one of the pools, and didn't get anything else. Then I was back on the Friday, had another salmon. And then I went up on the Monday because I was guiding with Gordo, Cheyenne, and our mum and dad, Steve and Tracy, on the Wednesday. And I says, I'm wanting to get up on a Monday just to have a look at the pools, make sure nothing's changed, and see where the fish are at. So we got that fish out the top herring while doing a wee recce mission to find out what was happening for my guiding.
Well done. And I know that you are going back offshore, aren't you? You're going back to work. So it's going to be, is it another 3 weeks before you can get out fishing again?
Yeah, I've got another week. After this FishPal's done, I'm going straight out tonight. But I've got another week before I go away offshore, and then I go away for 3 weeks. So the rivers will get a rest for 3 weeks, but then I come home for the last 2 weeks of the season. And I've got to make that count, because just now I'm on 43 fish from a year. And I set my challenge at the start of the year that I'd have 50 by the end of the season. So I've got 3 weeks left to get 7.
Okay.
So
well, good luck. And I know that we're going to go fishing with you as well. So we're going to be reporting on that. We're going to be coming live from the bankside with you. So when you come back on, we're going to talk about your first fish as well on the Yugi. Okay. Yeah, so you take care, Matthew. And there's loads of people have commented about your fish. And so do go on to the live, please, and give some, some likes for me as well. Okay, to the comments. Huge thank you to everybody who is commenting as well, and please let us know where you are coming from as well, because it is nice to know where people are and what you're fishing for as well. So tight lines, Matthew, and I'll speak to you soon. Okay,
thank you, Anne.
Take care, my lovely. Well, there you go. So I did say that we are going to be talking about fish. I don't think we could actually have any more fish photos. Wait, we've got a lot more coming. I have the gentleman who is coming on next. He was the editor of the Field Sports and Scottish Sporting magazine. He is the field editor of a South African magazine called the Complete Fly Fisherman, and he's also the brand director for Schoffel Country and Le Chameau. Good evening, Marcus.
Hi, Anne. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my
How are you
pleasure.
doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm hoping everybody can hear everybody, because at the moment I know we had a little bit of
No, it was fine. We lost Matt very briefly, but actually we he came back pretty quickly. I really enjoyed his story about catching 6 fish in a day with his mate David, who thought the conditions weren't quite right.
Oh, well, do you know something? David is absolutely lovely, because David fishes all over the place as well.
Okay.
It did make me giggle. Now, you started your fishing in South Africa, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I was born and grew up in South Africa. So for the first 21 years of my life, there we go. That's my brother and I, as very small children. We're very lucky. We grew up in a part of South Africa, actually, that boasts some of the best trout fishing in South Africa. Obviously, the trout were introduced from the rainbows from North America, and the browns from England. And we were very fortunate that we grew up on the edge of the edge of Lesotho, so the mountainous part of Natal, southern Drakensberg, basically a little bit further east and north than that, where that photograph was taken. And yeah, where we grew up, there was fantastic trout fishing, wild rainbows predominantly, but also some browns. And yeah, we both are. My brother and I, our father was a very keen fisherman, so we were introduced to it from a very young age. And then we discovered other species. I mean, when we were young, it was all about trout fishing, and probably showing my age now, but trout was the only thing that South Africans fished for with a fly rod. I don't think people had realized that you could catch the wide array of species that we now do with fly rods. And it was only latterly that we started to kind of experiment and fish for other species. That photograph you showed a moment ago was a native species of South African fish called the yellowfish, which is an incredible fly rod quarry. And that photograph would have been probably 30 years ago. And very few people were fishing for yellows back then, but now it's completely taken off. They've completely, superseded trout as the main number one fly rod quarry species in South Africa.
And how easy is it to go fishing in South Africa? Because it's a destination that a lot of people wouldn't think about going.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends what you want. I mean, obviously, Southern Africa has got great saltwater fly fishing, and it is a bit of a destination for that. I mean, Mozambique in particular, just slightly further north, is a phenomenal saltwater fly fishing destination. But yeah, within South Africa itself, there is fantastic trout fishing to be had. Wild brown trout fishing. I mean, Lesotho is an incredible place to go and fish. It's a tiny little landlocked country inside South Africa, and the whole country is at high altitude, so it's the right sort of temperature and climate for trout. And they have some enormous browns and rainbows. And I have a very good friend who actually guides in Lesotho. He has a company called Trodden Fishing and based in South Africa, and it's one of the areas that they specialize in. But there are also outfits and guides who specialize in yellowfish on the Orange River in South Africa and on the Vaal. And the yellowfishing can be outstanding. I mean, they're a great fly rod quarry. They're quite like barbel, really, but they're a brilliant fly rod quarry in that they'll take dry flies, they'll take nymphs. You can sight fish to them in clear water, and they fight like hell. I mean, they're a proper, really good scrap on a fly rod.
Fantastic. And I know that talking of high altitude fishing as well, and going to another country, Spain, you've done fishing in Spain as well.
Yes, well, as part of this was actually my first ever kind of destination commission for a fly fishing magazine. This is for the Complete Fly Fisherman. I mean, it was a good few years ago, the first trip that I did out there. I was sent out to the Spanish Pyrenees to go and fish for trout, and to write about it for the Complete Fly Fisherman. And it's just one of the most breathtakingly beautiful parts of the world. I mean, look at it. The rivers are just stunning, and the lakes. So yeah, I spent, I think, 4 or 5 days fishing out there, which was just amazing with a guy called Ivan Taran from Salvalinas fly fishing. And it was just a wonderful trip. Really, really lovely. stunning scenery, and very well looked after.
And I can imagine being able to cast a good line when this is like Paul Proctor fishing, this is, isn't it?
Yeah, he'd do pretty well out there if he hasn't been already. I mean, I'm nowhere near in Paul Proctor's league in terms of casting and precision. I have fished with Paul, and he is a bit of a machine. Yeah. I mean, his precision is, it's extraordinary. He'd probably love it out there. I know he loves New Zealand. It's quite like New Zealand. The trout in the Pyrenees don't get to the size that they do in New Zealand. Well, not that I experienced anyway, but that'd be right up his street.
And there's and obviously let's go to New Zealand as well, because you've been to New Zealand.
Yeah, I lived in New Zealand for a bit. I mean, that is a country that is just I'm obsessed with. I mean, I completely fell in love with New Zealand. I was originally going to be meant to be out there for a couple of months, and stayed for almost 2 years. And I'd probably still be there if given the chance. I mean, it is a fly fisher's paradise, and if you like trout fishing, in my opinion, I've yet to discover anywhere that comes close. The rivers and the lakes are just extraordinary. I spent basically 18 months fishing as much as I possibly could, and just wonderful people. And the most stunning scenery you can imagine. I mean, it's, everywhere you go, it looks like a postcard. And the wonderful thing about New Zealand is that you can fish any river or lake as long as you've got a permit. There's a thing called the Queen's Chain, and pretty much every body of fresh water in New Zealand has got trout in it. So you never stop exploring. That's actually the Spanish Pyrenees again. It does look quite a lot like New Zealand. Yeah, there's definitely a resemblance. Both such beautiful places to fish.
Yes, well, unfortunately, I am the useless on photos, as Matthew's already told you. There's me, river weir fish. So, but also as well is that the destinations that you've been as well, because again, you don't just fish for trout, you fish for every species. And we've got saltwater photos as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, isn't that the kind of one of the most wonderful things about fly fishing is that it takes you to these spectacular places, and I have been very lucky to fish some amazing places. My brother used to run the camp on the Rinda on the Kola Peninsula, so managed to get out there. Obviously, when I was editor of Field Sports magazine, I was very fortunate. Peter Rippin, who was then Fly Fisher Group, then he went on to Roxton's. He rang me up one day and said, "There's a space for a journalist on a trip to Alphonse in the Seychelles." And my wife and I we had our firstborn, who was I think 3 weeks old at the time, and I managed to convince my wife to let me go for a week's fishing in the Seychelles. She hasn't forgiven me and stopped mentioning it, but it was just the most extraordinary week. I mean, that place really is paradise. Yeah.
Well, we've already got people commenting about the my spelling of Le Chameau may be wrong.
No, it's right. Thank you, Cheyenne. I'm glad that you think our wellies are good.
Thank you. Oh, and I've been told off by John Taylor as well. So, because he's told me I'm too excited about the fishing because of the destinations that people have been to. You managed to get a fishing to go work to do it, obviously as a journalist, to go and catch these beauties.
Yeah, I mean it was. I mean, it doesn't really get any better than that, does it? To call that work, it's not really work. But I can tell you, I didn't take it for granted. I pinched myself every day that I was out there. It was just an amazing experience. I mean, Alphonse and all of the Seychelles are just stunningly beautiful. But Alphonse, in terms of bonefish, it's mind blowing. I'd heard an expression. Peter Rippin had actually said to me, "You will see rivers of bonefish," and I didn't truly understand what he meant until I got out there. And you have thousands, not probably tens of thousands of bonefish come past you all day. It is just it's a mind-blowing place. And of course, there are also GTs and triggerfish, which I completely fell in love with out there. I mean, they're just a brilliant fly rod quarry. They're just fickle and difficult to catch. I mean, they remind me of a brown trout in many ways. They spook really easily, but fight like anything. And then there's milkfish and then all the blue water species that you can go after out there. I mean, it really is just an extraordinary place.
And fly box as well.
Yeah, well, there we go. That was one of the guests. That wasn't my fly box. That was a guest's fly box. It was pretty well prepared.
Really was. I thought you got Steve Bengali there with you, because that's kind of his fly box.
Yeah.
And I tell you one thing, if you do fish with Paul Proctor, he won't give you any of his flies, because
No.
I fish with Procky. Yeah.
He will. He begrudgingly, only if your flies are really crap, and he feels sorry for you.
My word. But being an editor of a magazine, because I've got Andrew Flitcroft coming on in a couple of weeks' time. People say that you'll be fishing all over the world in destinations that are unbelievable, but you're normally stuck to a desk, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, that is the perception. Obviously, people assume that you are kind of gallivanting and just shooting and fishing and having a good time. Don't get me wrong, you obviously do. You get to experience some incredible things. I got to go to Seychelles as part of my job. So, but the truth of it is that you're actually behind your desk the vast majority of the time. But no, it is. I mean, it's even just writing about the fishing and shooting is it's a wonderful way to it's a wonderful thing to call work.
And also that you don't just, because obviously everything we've been talking about has been mainly single-handed rods.
Yeah.
You are also double-handed, and you're also a dab hand fishing for salmon, aren't you?
I don't know about that. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's the ultimate for me, to be honest with you. I mean, I came to it quite late, having grown up in South Africa, and you're right, everything was on a single-handed rod. Yeah. I discovered, spey casting or double-handed rods when I was in my very late teens and early 20s. But I was very lucky. My parents ran a country house hotel on Speyside for 10 years, and we had some fishing on a tributary of the Spey called the Arn. And I went to university in Aberdeen, where we fished the Dee and the Don and the Deveron as much as possible in the Spey. So I really threw everything at it. And when I was at university, and it is the ultimate for me. There's nothing. I've actually just very recently written an article for the Shooting Times, which is coming out fairly soon, about why, in my opinion, the Atlantic salmon is the ultimate quarry, bar none. And why the take of an Atlantic salmon is the single most exciting moment you can experience in all of country sports. Just nothing comes close. And I think anybody who's experienced it will be nodding right now, going, absolutely, nothing compares to the take of a salmon. There's nothing more exciting.
And also as well is that you have you don't just fish, you do all the different country sports, don't you? Yeah. And you've recently got, is it recently you got a McNab?
There was a few years ago. It was a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was. I was with a very good friend of mine, Charlie Coops. She actually had completed the McNab earlier that day. I was with her when she caught her salmon in the morning, which was amazing. And as soon as you get your salmon, that's really the first step of the McNab is to get the salmon. As you know, it's generally the most challenging of the three. So then off we went. We went to try and get her brace of grouse, which she did. But the estate that we were on very kindly said to me, no, take your gun too, and if you're lucky, shoot a couple of grouse. And I managed to shoot a couple of brace of grouse. Wow. And then I watched us from across the glen as Charlie grassed her stag. And it was just this amazing moment. I couldn't wait to get back to the lodge to celebrate with her that she'd managed to complete the McNab, because I knew how excited she would be. But the stalker, Stuart, who I was with, suddenly said to me, and then I ended up shooting a stag. So we looked down and this group of stags came past and I shot a stag. And then the stalker said to me, you need to get to the river, mate. You've shot a couple of brace of grouse this morning or early afternoon. You've now grassed a stag. Leave your rifle with me and start hightailing it back to the lodge and get back down to that river. And it was only then that it really occurred to me that there was a possibility that I could do a McNab as well. So anyway, drove back to the Erect, tributary of the Tay, at a speed that I wouldn't admit to my mother. She wouldn't have been impressed. But got down there, and just as the sun was disappearing behind a belt of oak, and I looked at this pool, and I just suddenly thought, actually, there is a chance. It just looked incredible, and it happened. I mean, it was just the most magical moment. I remember wading out into the pool, and as I was wading out, a fish showed in the most likely looking lie, and I just thought, if there's going to be a fish, I'd kind of spotted it as I kind of shimmied down this bank, and as I waded out, this fish showed. And I just heart in mouth. I mean, it was a pretty extraordinary moment when that fish took. And then the next kind of 10 minutes were very long 10 minutes as you're holding my breath, thinking, come on, stay on, don't come off. And that was amazing.
Yeah, and it's an amazing thing to actually do it, to achieve, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I think it only really kind of sank in a couple of days later, if I'm honest with you, because you don't. The thing about a McNab is, I don't think you can. You can't have high expectations because we all know what salmon are like. They're so. Well, they're fickle, aren't they? I mean, the conditions can be perfect. There's still no guarantee that you're going to get a fish. And to be honest with you, the conditions on that day were far from perfect. The water was low, and it was a bright, sunny day. And actually, it was only because the sun had come off the river, I think, that the fish kind of came onto the take.
Well done.
But yeah, it was an amazing moment. Never forget it.
And Cliff Orr has actually said, good man to choose salmon as the ultimate quarry.
Well, it is. It just is.
Well, James Hart has said, Marcus, how's the salmon season? Have you actually been out fishing?
James Hart is my best friend. And yes, he's just winding me up because he's caught more salmon than me this season. A lot more. Yeah, James is a muppet. He's not nearly as good a fisherman as me anyway.
I love it. You actually have insulted him as well.
He'd expect nothing less. But
the thing is that we're going to talk about Le Chameau and Schoffel because we have a special announcement, everybody, as well. This is going to be first heard tonight. How have you managed during lockdown? Because I can imagine everything just stopped.
It was tough. It was obviously, I think, like every business, we obviously rely very heavily on our retailers. They are the kind of backbone of our business. And of course, their stores were closed. And it was only really kind of equestrian or animal feeds businesses that remained open. So Le Chameau, people could buy Le Chameau wellies, but by and large, Schoffel Country, our sales relied entirely on online during the kind of lockdown period. So of course, it had a huge impact on our sales overall. We're very lucky that we've got lots of really good retailers, fantastic retailers who also have good e-commerce platforms. So our sales didn't dry up completely, but we kind of weathered the storm and have come out the other side. But yeah, obviously, like everybody, I think all retail has really struggled through this period. And we're glad to be hopefully coming out the other side. Obviously, there's still lots of uncertainty.
Yeah, and I know that with your PR and all your filming, etc., at the moment, how many films are you doing at the moment of photo shoots?
Well, we're very lucky that we've got a number of really good friends and contacts in the industry who've really bailed us out, because what happened was we were planning on doing we had our big autumn winter photo shoot, which for Schoffel and Le Chameau, autumn winter is the kind of the lion's share of our business. And we had our autumn winter photo shoot planned for the beginning of March. And it was just when sort of the whole COVID thing was kicking off. And we had to pull the plug at the very last minute. We were due to be doing it up at Drummond Castle in Perthshire, and it was going to be an amazing shoot. We had, a really awesome shoot planned. But at the very last minute, we had to pull the plug, which meant that we didn't have any images for this autumn winter. And so we reined in some favors. We contacted friends and contacts in the industry who we knew how to use a camera. So my brother, for instance, he's a pretty good photographer. My old deputy editor at Field Sports, Patrick Tillard, is great with a camera. And yeah, they were just brilliant. We had, Bryony Daniels. We had a number of people who really went the extra mile to help us out. Because actually taking a photograph or getting a product photographed when you're on your own and socially distancing it's actually seriously challenging. And they went to great lengths. And actually, my brother features in some of the images, which my mum happened to take. And my brother's told me that when she was taking the photograph, she was closing the wrong eye. But anyway, some of the images are amazing. So we can't fault them. Very grateful.
Your mum sounds like me, a happy snapper.
Yes, she is. No, she did a brilliant job. We're very proud of her. She got some great shots.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
And we do have a special announcement this evening, and nobody's heard it before. So, and just in time, Rodrigo from Chile has joined us. Good evening, Rodrigo.
Hello, Rodrigo.
So, actually, before we actually do the special announcement, where in the world haven't you fished?
Lots of places. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm very, very lucky to have fished in some incredible places. I haven't fished in South America, funnily enough, Rodrigo. I've never fished in Chile or Argentina, which I've wanted to for years. Actually, James Hart, who best mate and big fishing pal, he's fished the Rio Grande a number of times, and very, very envious. I've seen lots of incredible photographs. And Steph Jones is a good mate of mine, and he fishes down there a lot. So yeah, that's definitely high up on the bucket list. Iceland is very high on the bucket list. Never fished Iceland. Would particularly for trout, actually. I want to, I'd love to fish for salmon out there, but yeah, some of the photographs I've seen of Paul Proctor and Matt Harris, and of course Steph fishing for trout out there just look phenomenal.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's two places. I mean, the ultimate place would be Norway. I mean, that's got to be the ultimate salmon destination is to go and fish the Alta. But
yeah, it's all salmon.
I mean, that's yeah.
So, but we want to get Stephen Jones onto this because
you have to.
Such a sweet. He's such a sweet.
Brilliant.
So, special announcement, everybody. Cheyenne and Gordo, you're going to love this. Okay, so what are Schoffel Country going to be doing? What are they going to be manufacturing?
We are very, very excited. For the last 2.5 years, we've been working on developing a fly fishing range of technical fly fishing clothing. So a Schoffel wading jackets, fly fishing jackets, mid layers, trousers, a complete capsule fly fishing range using the latest fabrics. Oh, there we go. There's a photograph of one of our Mayfly Dermazax jackets. We've put a huge amount of effort and development and research into this. We've had a massive amount of help from friends and colleagues in the industry who have product tested stuff for us. We have had guides out in Iceland, Gillies in Scotland, guides in Argentina, and just very, very experienced and really good guys give us really a lot of help and a lot of input. So we're very excited about the launch of our fly fishing range, which will be in stores in the UK and on our website from February next year.
Fantastic. And also as well is that you are donating a percentage as well, aren't you, the profit?
Yeah, so not profit, total sale.
No,
so yeah, that's just everything that we sell in the fly fishing range. 1% of our total sales will be automatically donated to the Atlantic Salmon Trust, who of course are such a vitally important organization for anyone, for salmon. We all know that we've had declining salmon runs, particularly in the UK, over the past generation really, and they're at the forefront of working out why. And we know that in order to change government policy, we need science, and that key organisation that are generating and coming up with the science, and the facts that we will need to present to government. But like the GWCT do for the shooting world, they play such a pivotal role.
Yeah. And at the moment, Marcus, we've already got Lee Fanel. He's already said he fancies a new fly jacket.
Lee, you get in touch with me, mate. We'll sort you out.
And obviously, I want to come back to the Atlantic Salmon Trust, but with reference to the range, obviously, we've just seen like a nice green there. Are you actually introducing a range of colours?
Well, we're going to be quite conservative because we are Schoffel Country and we're kind of classically British and understated. And so we've put our own kind of British stamp on things. It's really the emphasis for us has been on the technical side of things. We're using the very best Gore-Tex fabrics. We put a lot of time and a lot of effort into actually sourcing the best fabrics in terms of technical performance. So really, they're not going to be bright colored jackets. They're going to be functional and really practical jackets. So yeah.
Well, we've now got 2 jackets already.
There we go. We've sold 2 jackets, John. Good man. We've got just the jacket for you.
Yes. Well, the other thing as well is that the Atlantic Salmon Trust and all the great work that they are doing to actually help with the Missing Salmon Project as well.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, I was very fortunate to be at the launch of that at Fishmongers Hall, and where I was actually asked to speak, which I was very honoured to do. I mean, it's an incredible initiative It's vitally important. I can't think of anything more important in terms of, wildlife conservation in the UK. I think the big thing that we're unfortunate that people don't feel an emotional connection to fish in the same way that they do cuddly things like pandas and, lions and tigers. But, if people fully appreciated the threat that salmon are facing, the extraordinary threat that they're facing, you'd think that the public ought to be getting behind this and really embracing it and not eating farmed salmon. It amazes me that anybody eats farmed salmon these days. We now know it's well documented the impact that farmed salmon has on wild salmon stocks. I just hope that there's a big change in mindset coming. And that the mainstream media get behind this and recognize just what a hugely detrimental thing salmon farming is to our wild salmon stocks and just how precious they are.
Well, the FishPal newsletter next week does actually have we've been working with Fisheries Management Scotland, and we've actually got some information going in there as well next week. So everybody do read that as well about what's actually been happening and the work they're doing as well. Because everybody's working together because we need to.
We have to. I mean, that's key. The corroboration and collaboration between all the different organizations, and that was the thing that I found so exciting and just refreshing at the launch of the Missing Salmon Alliance project was that you had the key organizations coming together, because that is really what is required.
And we've already got comments coming in. We've already had Pud Murray on.
I know, I saw that.
We've got
cheeky.
Yes, he's so funny. Ali Hutchins, they've already said a few sales here as well. So by the time we finish this evening, we should have actually sold quite a few jackets for you, because we have done this before.
Well, thank you, Anne. That's amazing. Well, I'll be delighted that anyone who wants any more information for anyone to contact me directly. Be very happy to talk to you about our salmon fishing range or our fly fishing range.
And also as well as because the one thing that I want people to know about you, and the fact of obviously you're the brand director, the fishing that you've done as well, and you haven't just done, obviously you've done all the fishing abroad, you've done your salmon fishing in the UK as well, but also as well as down in the south of England, you love going. I think
I'll fish anywhere, to be honest with you, Anne. I mean, any opportunity to fish, you never decline. If I can get away with it, I'd never decline an invitation to fish. Fishing is the thing that I love all of country sports. I love my shooting and stalking, but it's fishing is the passion, isn't it? And once it's in your blood, it's it's there for life, I think. I'll fish anywhere.
Well, we've already got an XXXL for Pud. Do you know something? We actually had the lives during lockdown, and this was going on all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Price point. Lee's already asked about the price point. So they're not going to be cheap. I mean, there is no such thing as a cheap Gore-Tex jacket, just because the fabrics are expensive. Well, the brief that we gave our design team, we actually took our kind of two designers from Germany. Schoffel is based in Germany, in Munich, and the whole project started almost 3 years ago when I took the two kind of head designers from Germany to Farlow's, and we spent a long time downstairs in Farlow's looking at various competitors' products. And I just said to these two ladies, can we do a better job? And they said, yeah, we believe we can. And the design brief for the two jackets in particular was one to make the most reliable, the most waterproof jacket, really aimed at the Atlantic salmon fishermen, where fishing for a whole week in pouring rain, you're going to stay dry. And so our Schoffel Sailor wading jacket is just that, and we've made it from the most durable hardware and Gore-Tex fabric that we could find in their fishing and shooting range. And then our other jacket, the design brief was to make the most lightweight wading jacket or fishing jacket that has the best possible performance that you can get from a lightweight jacket, and it's made from a fabric called Dermazax. That's the jacket there. Exactly.
And it's one of the most technically advanced fabrics in the world. It's made in Japan. It's not used in any other fly fishing products that we're aware of. It's incredibly light, but what's extraordinary about that fabric is it is as waterproof and more breathable than Gore-Tex, than some Gore-Tex fabrics. So it won't have the durability because it's so lightweight. So there's always some compromise. But if you are going fishing in, I don't know, overseas in a warm climate where it could rain hard, that jacket's going to keep you just as dry as a Gore-Tex jacket. It won't last as long, it won't be as durable, but it's phenomenally light. You pick up that jacket and you can't believe how a jacket that light can have the same waterproofing properties as Gore-Tex and better breathability. So yeah, price point, sorry, it probably feels like I'm kind of skirting around the issue. They're expensive, but they will last and they will perform very, very well. They've been 2.5 years in the making. We had a number of prototypes made. They've been properly tested. And all of the guys that helped us test the jackets, they had a whole season of testing, and actually one of the guys who has a prototype has just finished his second season as a guide in Iceland using the same prototype jacket, and he's still saying it's the best jacket he's ever used. So we're confident that we've produced a really good range that will be last a long time. If you think about what you spend on your fishing, if you spend on a week's fishing, it makes sense to spend money on good kit that's going to last you for a long time and keep you dry and comfortable.
Well, I've actually got 2 Gore-Tex jackets, and I actually wear them with my jeans as well. So when I'm out, I'll throw them in the jeans. They've got to be versatile because of the cost of them, but also as well as having something that's lightweight. When you've actually got all your kit, all your fly boxes, and you're carrying so much, it's good to have something light. Now, we've already got people saying it looks nice. Lee Final, he said it looks nice. Now, obviously, I'm just doing a plug here for any of the gillies, especially the junction gillies. If you can just kick them out in the jackets, they'll be happy with me.
Well, we'll be definitely be doing gillies a deal. So any gillies listening, get in touch.
Gavin.
And Gavin, of course, get in touch. We'll definitely do you a deal. We'd love the gillies to be wearing our kit. We've used gillies to product test this, the kit. We used a couple of gillies on the Tay, and we'd love them to be wearing our product. We want them to keep dry.
Yeah, and the other thing I was saying to you before we even started this evening, that gilet that you've got, the amount of people that I see in that gilet is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary thing, isn't it? I mean, the men's and ladies, this is obviously the Oakham, and the ladies is the Linden. It's a product that's taken on a life of its own. But I mean, they are just inherently very practical, warm and comfortable, and they look smart. So I guess they tick lots of boxes.
And also, as well as Rodrigo said, that in Chile, we only see 3 brands of fishing clothing. Perhaps it would be an interesting market for both Chile and Argentina as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Rodrigo. Get in touch, drop me a line. Let's talk.
Yeah, but huge thank you. I've had so many fish photos from you, and I know we haven't used as many, so I apologize for that. So no, well, we absolutely brilliant. And also, as well as that, our final comment is from Cheyenne, who said it looks very, very nice.
Thank you, Cheyenne.
So, she's so wonderful. We love the Stronach family. So huge thank you.
Thank you.
Just to let everybody know, when all of this fishing range of clothing from Schoffel Country coming out?
It'll be on our website and in stores from early next year, from February next year. From the beginning of Feb, look out for it.
And can people pre-order?
Yes, absolutely. They absolutely can pre-order. Just get in touch with us via our website or get in touch with me directly. We'd be delighted to take pre-orders.
Fantastic. And I would also like to thank as well Matthew who will be coming back to talk about more fishing trips that he's doing. He's just done, and also when he comes off.
Well, he's got to get those. He's got to get those 7 more salmon, hasn't he, to catch 50 fish for the season? He'll do it, won't he? He got 6 in a day recently, so he'll be all right.
Yeah, and Cheyenne's already said it's going to be her next investment. She's only 16 and she's invested.
Well done, Cheyenne.
We love her. We love her. And also, obviously, John Trodden, the chairman of the River Spey Anglers Association, who I absolutely love, the River Spey Anglers Association. Next week, I've got 3 more guests coming on next week. So stay tuned, everybody. And huge thank you. And a huge thank you as well, Marcus, for coming on and sharing.
Not at all. Thank you for having me. It's been great fun. It's been good to catch up, Anne. It's been really good to catch up. It's been a long time.
It has. And you take care, my lovely, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.